2019 has come to a close, and with it, so ends an excellent year for Kennywood. So since the park is closed until May, let's have a look back at all the highs and lows that went down in 2019. The season technically started for many enthusiasts at the conclusion of 2018, as most of us were actively following the construction progress of Steel Curtain. From a few base supports at the end of 2018 to a nearly completed lift hill by March, Kennywood was making steady progress. I visited twice to get footage for construction updates, and I definitely wasn't the only one with a camera pointed at the park that day. Steel Curtain was catching the attention of everyone that drove by, and you could see the coaster for nearly a mile as you approached the park. After 4 cold months, Season Pass Holder Day finally arrived, and it was great to be back. Most of the rides were running that day, with the notable exceptions being Skyrocket and Black Widow, which were down for extended maintenance. Phantom was running great, and although a lot of people didn't realize it at first, it was also Exterminator's 20th anniversary. A lot has changed within the attraction over those 2 decades, and I even did a video on it if you're interested in checking that out. One thing I noticed was that Thunderbolt was running rougher than usual, and it stayed that way for the rest of the summer. The following week, the park opened to the public with the same number of open attractions as Pass Holder Day. There was no sign of activity at Skyrocket, and Black Widow was a similar situation. It was great to have the park back open, but with 2 of its largest attractions closed and construction on Steel Curtain still underway, a large portion of the park felt inaccessible. Kennywood remained that way throughout the rest of May and into June, with Steel Curtain's construction having seemingly slowed. During this time, the park experienced a lot of negative publicity due to the slow construction and closed attractions, as well as from serving Hunt's Ketchup instead of Heinz, although they switched back to Heinz soon after. Pittsburgh. Never change. Then suddenly, at the beginning of June, the construction shifted into overdrive, and before long, Steel Curtain's track was completed. Then, on June 22nd, the first test runs took place. This was incredible to see in person, and the huge crowd of people watching in awe with each test proved that I wasn't the only one amazed by the new coaster. Not long after, the opening day was announced, July 13th. However, July 12th was the day I was most excited for, as I arrived at the park at 5:30 a.m. for Steel Curtain's Media Day. Despite being so early in the morning, this was one of the best days I've ever had at any amusement park. I met a bunch of fellow enthusiasts, some of who were fans of the channel, and after all the months of anticipation, I finally took my first ride on Steel Curtain, with my friend Derek from Extreme Thrills, of course. I was blown away by Steel Curtain's pacing, a relentless barrage of inversions with little time to catch your breath between each one. My favorite elements are the dive loop over the lagoon and the final cutback, which I actually think is one of the most intense inversions on it, since the train is still carrying so much speed at that point. Overall, it was a fantastic media day, and I spent 7 hours filming the coaster, which I still felt wasn't long enough. On July 13th, Steel Curtain opened to the public, and it was a rough start for the new coaster. It only ran 1 train for most of the day and had to close early due to a mechanical problem, leaving many guests that day a little more than upset. Sadly, Kennywood chose to forego a soft opening period in order to get the coaster open to the public as soon as possible. This meant that the park had little time to get acquainted with the operation procedures of the new coaster, and Steel Curtain suffered a lot of downtime throughout August and much of September. Despite the rough initial operations, Steel Curtain managed to gain largely positive reviews from those who got to ride it, and most enthusiasts agree that the front row provides the best ride experience. The rest of Steelers Country, however, would not open for the summer season. A few days after Steel Curtain opened to the public, quite literally out of nowhere, Skyrocket made its triumphant return. After being down since late May 2018, it was great to have this coaster back, and I actually think it's running smoother now than it did prior to the long closure. The launch also seems quieter as well. Either way, it's great to have Kennywood's full coaster lineup up and running again. Phantom even received new paint on the brake run, station, and lift hill. Now, if they could just go ahead and repaint the entire coaster, that would be great, but I think I've talked enough about that before. Thunderbolt would close for the season at the end of September to undergo a lengthy retracking effort, so hopefully this eliminates the coaster's roughness I noticed earlier in the season. As September came to a close and the summer season came to an end, Kennywood began preparing for their annual Phantom Fright Night's Halloween event. I only got to go once this year, but there was plenty new to look forward to. In addition to Steel Curtain being open, which allowed me to get my first night ride, there was a brand new haunt themed to a haunted hospital. This was the first new haunt the park has added since 2009, but I feel like they had to add a new one since the second most recent haunt, Biofear, was essentially removed by the construction of Steelers Country. It was a pretty fun haunt to walk through, so I consider it a worthy replacement, and Steel Curtain at night is just a completely different experience, so I seriously recommend a night ride if you can get one. My group went to Fright Night on opening night, and the crowd wasn't bad at all. We were able to do all the haunt mazes and even get rides on Phantom and Steel Curtain, so I consider it a great success. Fright Night is always a good time with friends. At last we get to Holiday Lights, Kennywood's Christmas celebration. There wasn't much new to talk about save for Rudolph being shown in the 4D theater, but this is always a fun way to bring in the Christmas season. Lights around the lagoon, a few flat rides open, the huge model train display in the arcade, it's all great fun. December 30th was the last day for Holiday Lights, and with that, the 2019 season had come to a close. Overall, this was one of the busiest years in the park's history, and we got the largest attraction in years. Although Steel Curtain had some problems soon after opening, it seems much of it has been addressed and it should be running much more efficiently in 2020. Sadly, Black Widow never reopened as it reportedly needs a new gearbox, and the rest of Steelers Country was still being built on December 30th, so we'll likely see the full area open this summer. 2019 was the most eventful year for Kennywood in my lifetime, and I can't wait to see what they do next. And that's it for my recap of Kennywood's 2019 season. Did any of you get to visit, and if you did, what did you think? Let me know down in the comments, and, like always, I'll have more coaster content here soon on Rampaging Rex Productions. See you guys next time.